Hello, I'm Bradley Ford.
Hi, I'm Vishnu Prasad Rao, and welcome to the Beskar Briefing. So this is episode 2 already, guys. Episode 2. So I guess we'll start off with our first topic of the day, which is another Star Wars one, but I guess kind of a debate, very controversial, debatable one. I'll introduce it, and you can give me your take, Mr. Ford.
Sure.
But here it is. Are you ready? It's hot.
Yeah.
It's fresh off the presses.
Extra, hot off the presses.
It is. Who is the best Jedi?
All right, and when we talk about who's the best Jedi, I think we need to go ahead and throw in a stipulation there. Typically, when we talk about these types of things, we talk about who's the best Jedi.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Jedi code. So there is no emotion, there's peace, there is no chaos, there's harmony, all that good stuff. I feel very strongly about this one as there's really only one in my mind that really encompasses all of them, and it's not Yoda, which is why I consider it a hot take. It's actually Obi-Wan.
Hello there.
So Obi-Wan, he's seen his apprentice die in front of him. He's seen his love taken away from him. He's seen his master taken away from him by the same person. He has lived through the annihilation of the Jedi Order, and through all of that, he has maintained the tenets of the Jedi Code. He's never really strayed far from the light. He really never lets his emotions get the better of him.
Right.
He never acts on impulse. He always tries to seek knowledge before going into a fray.
Mm-hmm.
He is very much a believer of even when someone dies, they're not gone. They are part of the living force.
Right.
And that's only amplified when he learns, how he can communicate with Qui-Gon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason why I say, he is arguably a better Jedi than Yoda is that Yoda, two reasons actually. One, Yoda, there's a whole theory about the fact that Yoda knew some dark side. He used some dark side because
like how he absorbs the lightning and stuff like that. Little stuff like
that. There was a thing, and I don't know if it's been changed because of the canon.
Yeah.
But there was a thing where you could only use the force that redirection technique if you knew force lightning, and you have to know.
Yeah, you have to know a little bit at least.
Just a little bit.
You can't just.
Yeah, you have to know a little dark
right.
side to do force lightning. And yes, before anyone yells at me in the comments, I know that Plo Koon had his own version called Force Judgment, but that is not the same power.
Yeah.
But
Shout out Plo Koon. Shout out Plo Koon.
Shout out Plo Koon. What a good character, Plo Koon. So sad when he dies in Order 66. So it's the Clone Wars did a good job.
This man literally gets shot in the back. Like, I don't think people realize this. I mean, most Jedi did, but like, yeah, that man was flying around.
He and Ayla Secura were the ones that actually got shot in the back.
Yeah, at least Ki-Adi-Mundi was like, oh shoot, kind of realized.
You gotta fight a little bit. But back to that. And then the other reason is Yoda gives up. He exiles himself after the Jedi Order is annihilated. Mm-hmm. Whereas Obi-Wan, he actually stays. He stays, right. Not really stays with the Jedi, but he waits for Luke to grow up
and raise him in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one. He's really the spark that keeps the Jedi alive.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for him, there would have been no Jedi hero to try and help the rebellion to overthrow the Empire.
Yeah.
So I for those reasons, I definitely think that he is 100% the best.
Shoot, man, you hit it right on the nail. I agree, wholeheartedly. Just because, to reiterate your points, man, like Obi-Wan, I don't know how he stayed so calm, and Jedi. Because if you really think about it, he had his master killed right in front of him. That was messed up. and at least he like exacts a revenge of sort, and he kind of, if you see, kind of taps into an anger, which is not the Jedi way. Like, he's supposed to remain calm even in battle, but then he does, and he uses to defeat Maul the first time, but then again Maul comes back, takes away Sabine, or not Sabine, the leader of Mandalore, right? And takes away his love.
It was Sabine.
Was it Sabine? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Everything is here, Satine.
And then takes away her right in front of his face by Maul, the same guy. Like, I don't think people realize how heavy and emotional that is.
Why am I so emotional?
Yeah, the same exact Sith Lord.
And then loses Anakin, who he took up for his master, right? Like, he was just a Padawan when he took him up. And then ushers in a new age of freedom, democracy. Remember, I'm for democracy. Remember, like that? Yeah.
It's a democracy!
He ushers in that whole era through the rebellion, through keeping Luke safe, trains him, understands the ways of the Force. Like, technically, he's the first Force ghost, right? At least in terms of the films.
Yeah, I think so. Because
even
Qui-Gon really
Qui-Gon doesn't manifest his body, but his voice is there, so he gets like half of his training. But Obi-Wan's the first one that goes through to do it, right? So
that was seen in canon. Of course, they have a whole now High Republic thing that we don't know about.
Maybe it's there. So, but yeah, there's that, and then he just embodies calm of the Jedi, the selflessness. Remember, he dedicates his life to this. So I definitely agree with you. Now, on the flip side, if people were to make the argument, just to play devil's advocate here, of other Jedi, I mean, I think the ones that pop into my mind, obviously Yoda, just because I mean, if you think about it in a sense, he does train Luke afterwards too. Remember in The Last Jedi, he comes back, it's like he's still training, in a sense, how to be a master at this point. Then I also think there's a big argument for Qui-Gon, because if you're talking about a Jedi as just being a servant of the Force, like the will of the Force type of thing, if that's your argument, that's a good point. If you're, I understand that the Jedi have a code, but if the code is to at least just go by, the will of the Force, if that's their ultimate goal, it really depends on what their goal is, right? Like, if their goal is the will of the Force, then Qui-Gon, I think, really captures it, because he doesn't get caught up in the political game that the Jedi have at this point, because they're so wrapped up with the Republic, right?
Yeah, and then, everything he did was for the will of the Force.
Yeah, so if you're talking about like that, then Qui-Gon obviously has a big argument. So does Ahsoka. That's what I was going to throw her name out there, because I think she's really... Initially, she's a Padawan, right? But, like... We don't get to see much of Obi-Wan as a Padawan. Sure, we get a movie, but we don't get to see him as a young Padawan learning. He's kind of almost ready for his trials. He's not there yet, but he's almost ready, right? Like, he's a little hot-headed, but he's getting there in Phantom Menace. But Ahsoka, we really get to see her journey progress from Padawan, kind of cocky, being snips, the banter, doing risky stuff, then also like being thrown into this war as a Padawan, learning on the fly type of scenario, and then her decision to be leaving the Jedi Order, and then even have a chance to come back, right? Twice, 3 times, like she just doesn't, and just the maturity that you see, and then even in Rebels you get to see her even more, and hopefully, I think we're pretty much gonna confirm at this point see her in The Mandalorian, so we'll definitely get to see her demeanor. Like, she was and remember, in Rebels, you've seen Rebels, the light side, the little bird thing.
The embodiment of the sister, right?
The daughter, yeah.
The daughter.
The embodiment of the daughter follows her, so it's almost like she is the light, almost, in a sense. Like, she's the companion of the daughter. That's pretty damn cool. So
that is pretty.
So I think there's definitely arguments for other Jedi. Don't get me wrong. And I wish, like I said, we would have gotten to see more of other Jedi, like Plo Koon. I think Plo Koon has a big argument here, because he's also very calm and centered.
There's I do agree, and then there are things like Kit Fisto, where we had like one episode of Clone Wars where you got to really have a relationship with Kit Fisto,
who, by the way, was one of my favorite Jedi growing up.
Dude, he was honestly one of my favorites before Clone Wars even came out. I just didn't.
Yeah, but like remember even in Attack of the Clones, like he has that little cheeky moment where he pushes. Yeah.
Dear, I'm terribly sorry about all this.
And he's just like, hey, he's like, I'm not gonna destroy you. I know that you're just screwed up. So let me just help you out.
The Jedi that always fights with a smile on his face.
Yeah, that's just like, I think that's the part I really liked. There was that episode where he was like in Clone Wars where he's going in Grievous's lair, right? Remember that? And his like Padawan dies. Like that was just messed up. But yeah, that was messed up. But
He actually didn't give Grievous the work, but he definitely played Grievous like a fiddle. That was a really good episode.
Yeah, that was. And so, okay, so yeah, I think we're both on the same page. Obi-Wan Kenobi, best Jedi. He gets that award just because he did everything for the Order. I mean, dedicated his life. Never even flirted with the dark. I mean, the only flirtation with the dark side was him beating Maul. So that's not even like. That's just retaliation. That's not really, So
and he was also a Padawan at that point. If you think about it, probably every single Jedi probably had moments like that as a Padawan. But by the time he actually established himself as a Jedi Knight, that just didn't exist.
It just didn't. Like you see sadness, but you don't see grief. Like remember, he's like Yoda's like talking about that whole progression of like grief leads to anger, anger leads to hatred. All that to the dark side. You don't really see any scary moment with Obi-Wan. You're just like, he's not turning.
And one other thing, which I actually think is an interesting point, and I know I have one friend who definitely disagrees with me on this. Obi-Wan never sought to change anyone. So if he tried, like at the end of the day, he never tried to change Anakin. From the recent Clone Wars show, and I haven't seen all of it, so don't tell me everything.
Oh, it's good.
The most recent season, we see Obi-Wan knows about Anakin's relationship with Padme.
Yeah.
He knows Anakin is reckless and arrogant and things like that.
He doesn't.
But he never tries to change Anakin.
Yeah, he doesn't try to shackle him too much, which I think is also a mark of how good of a master he is. He's like he has to learn through his mistakes. Like he'll learn. Like it doesn't really matter.
Well, I think that's also an embodiment of an incredible Jedi, because at the end of the day, the Jedi, they're not. They're warriors of peace, but they aren't. They do not seek to control.
Right.
They only seek to educate.
Right.
Now they will fight. They will fight the dark side when the dark side becomes too powerful. But their task is not to control.
They were supposed to be, like you said, keepers of the peace, so more free will type of scenarios.
Yeah.
But then because of the war, they become
warriors.
Yeah.
They become like a police force.
Yeah. So they didn't want to do that.
It's contradictory.
Yeah. And so like I do get that. That's big. That's a big argument in favor of Obi-Wan in a sense, because it's like, and honestly, like let's say like Padme and Anakin, like she gives birth to Anakin's kids, and Obi-Wan finds out, and it's just like that's the main focus, right? Like let's say that's like a controversy. I'm pretty sure Obi-Wan would argue in favor of Anakin all the way through, just because he'd be like, listen, he came from nothing. He is the willing embodiment of the Force. You're denying him a family. You're denying him love. That's not the Jedi way. Like an argument like that, because he did have that Qui-Gon in him where he was like, no, I don't agree with what you're saying. Like, he wouldn't be afraid to tell you he disagrees. Even though the ultimate decision may be against what he says, he's still going to say, I did. Remember when he asked Anakin to spy on Chancellor Palpatine, he's like, I don't agree with this, but the council wants you to do this, and they asked me to tell you. And I thought, probably best I tell you anyway. Better than you hearing it from Master Windu or Yoda.
Yeah, Master Windu, who already pisses you off on a regular basis.
Exactly. So it's like, so I definitely agree with you that Obi-Wan's intentions were always pure. So it just goes to show. Yeah. Okay. Next topic. I'm glad we closed that. Gold star for Obi-Wan.
Have a gold star.
Is the opposite side of the Force, and we're sticking with canon only, so we don't get too bogged down.
That's fine.
But
that's fine.
Who is the best Sith?
So best Sith, And we're sticking with canon only.
Right.
So if we're talking about canon, I gotta say personally, it's gotta be now. Oh well, you say canon, and then I don't really know what's canon with him anymore. I was gonna say Darth Bane, because Darth Bane, I mean, you know, he developed the rule of two. He was an incredibly powerful Sith that never really, like, he lived by the dark side code to the point where he was like, oh, the Sith aren't following this, you're done.
Yeah. No, I think let's just with Darth Bane, we'll just go with him and just use whatever knowledge you know of him, because it's difficult to say like what's canon and what's not, because he appears in like Clone Wars, and then he also is like in other things. So
we definitely know he exists.
Yeah,
just
and he established the rule of two for sure.
Story,
So just tell me what you know, because it's
I'm gonna assume with that we do have the Darth Bane that we know. Yeah. Maybe his armor's just different. Maybe his lightsaber's just different. Whatever.
Yeah, that's
but yeah. So Darth Bane, he truly. So of course we're talking about the embodiment of the Sith code, where the Sith code is. There is no, peace is a lie. There is only passion. The passion against strength, strength, power, power, victory, victory, chains are broken. The Force shall set me free.
Yeah.
Most impressive.
Darth Bane came from nothing. He was a miner on a Patros with an abusive father.
That's crazy, man.
And he broke those shackles through anger, through passion, through his convictions. He never once. I mean, he did doubt himself at one point, but he broke through that boundary as well. And he amassed power, and he amassed power not even to the extent that Palpatine did, where Palpatine amassed a lot of public power. You know, he overthrew the government. He became the emperor, whatever. But Darth Bane amassed power in a way that allowed cities to do that, which is he developed a network across galaxies where he had spies, agents, informants, plans on plans in place, so that as soon as one piece on the chessboard moves, Darth Bane has already won.
Yeah,
like he.
It's not. He won through his. I mean, they're both strategists, but Bane won through his power, I guess, in a sense, is what you're saying, and then Palpatine won through more of his planning. You know what I mean? Like,
Palpatine was powerful. We see that. Yeah. We see that a little bit in the first 6 movies, and then in the Rise of Skywalker, we see him nuke the entire. Definitely has power, but what Darth Bane had. Darth Bane was powerful physically, in the Force, and mentally.
I don't think people realize how powerful he was through the Force. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
No, he was an insane powerhouse in the Force alone, and then he backed that up with his physical strength. Right. He was a 6'3" mountain of muscle,
wielding a lightsaber. Like, you're not beating him. Like, combat.
He will fuck your shit up. and then he was incredibly intelligent. He had plans on plans on plans.
Right.
Cause that's my plans.
He knew exactly when to strike. He knew how to strike, and he was never reckless, really, until there was a brief time when he was, because of the whole Orbalisk armor, but even then he managed to overcome that. But yeah, Darth Bane, by far, in my personal opinion, best Sith.
I definitely see your argument. I would say him, just because if I'm giving credit, it's like, who's the OG, you know, who's the original, because it's like he established the rule of two, which basically subsequently set off every Sith type of power structure for the eternity.
From the Republic onward.
Yeah, and so I agree, but I'm gonna throw one out here, and Palpatine is, like, I guess the obvious choice, just because we see most of him as the big bad, right? And that's cool and all, but I think that if you're gonna give an argument to the opposite side of Obi-Wan, I'm gonna say Darth Maul. And hear me out. It's offbeat, right? It's offbeat.
Okay.
But Palpatine was about control and power right?
Mm-hmm.
And so was Bane. Bane was more about winning, right? I wouldn't even say control as much as he just wanted to win. Like, he just wanted to make sure that he won. Like, but Maul was driven by passion, you know, like, and he amassed power. So if you want to check off, like, the boxes of a Sith, he amassed power because he does rule over Mandalore for a little bit. He does own his own, like, crime syndicate with Crimson Dawn and others.
Yeah, he does.
And if you're... So, power is checked off. He is a Sith. He's literally red and black and has yellow eyes. So, in terms of appearance, I'm giving it to him. Because he's definitely the creepiest of all of them.
That is true.
And then...
He is one of the most Sith looking.
Yes. And then everything he wanted to do was driven by passion and hate. So, it's like the primal... Like, if you're talking about, like... Palpatine did have... hate, obviously, towards the Jedi, like a disdain of how they ran things. And obviously Bane did. But Maul had open hatred towards Jedi, towards especially Kenobi. And that's what, honestly, what kept him alive after he died. Remember, like, almost died. He was on the brink of death. Then when he was cut in half, and he literally survived through hatred and constructed himself into like a spider thing, right? For a little bit until he got legs. And that whole thing was like... He should
have kept that spider leg. That was kind of dope.
A little General Maulless, like a Grievous Maul slash up there. But yeah, that would be terrifying.
Had a couple arms, and he could wield 2 double-bladed lightsabers. That would have been dope.
That'd be terrifying. But yeah.
Yeah,
I'd have to talk to a therapist after seeing that. So yeah, but if you're talking about the primal things of the Sith, like what makes someone drive towards the dark side, Palpatine had moments where he's like not compassionate, but he is a little compassionate. And I know it's deception, but he needs Vader to complete his plans. He didn't even control all of, like, he could have executed Order 66, but if Anakin wasn't on his side, there's a very good chance he would have failed. When he had Dooku as an apprentice, or even Maul.
You okay, bud?
But
camera shifted.
Yeah, but then you're talking about the primal things of the Sith, like the primal elements is hatred and passion and anger, and that is just Maul. Like, remember when Anakin first turns to the Sith, he is angry, he's passionate. It's all about saving Padme. It's all about establishing his power over the Jedi. He's angry at the Jedi. He's angry at anyone who just told him you can't live like this. He's angry at anyone who says you can't save Padme. And then you're talking about just his pure hatred for Kenobi, who's the light side. Like we established, the best Jedi. His will to the end is to kill Kenobi and find him, right?
Yeah.
So, I think
that is true, actually. Yeah, his hate is literally what kept, like you said, it kept him alive when he got cut in half.
Right.
And it's what kind of drove him all the way through Clone Wars and all the way into Rebels, because that's what it was. Well, it became hatred for Kenobi and for Sidious. But even then, that was his existence.
Right. And I think if you're talking about the Sith, the refined ones will be the ones at top, like the Banes, the Sidiouses, the Plagueuses. Even though we don't know much about him, we know that he was, at least planner. He was a good planner. But the ones that are even Dooku, to a sense, they were refined. They were refined dark side. They were planners.
Dooku was the definition of refinement. Dark side.
Yeah, exactly. But when I think of the dark side, I do think of that, like deception and being smart, like that definitely plays into it. But when I think of the dark side, I think of like the opposite of Obi-Wan, which is refinement, right? Like Obi-Wan's refined, he controls his emotions. I was thinking of someone who's opposite of that, because it's just anti-Obi-Wan would be Maul. It's emotional, it's hatred, it's solely focused on one thing. I mean, Obi-Wan's only focused on the Jedi Order, but he's only focused on his own passions. He's driven by those, right? So stuff like that. So I was thinking that's cool. That there's definitely a big argument for Maul. I was gonna say Maul as mine.
I might have to change my argument in all honesty. that is a very fair point. That is a very good point.
Just because I think Maul, especially with Clone Wars and with Rebels, his character development was just fantastic. So
fantastic.
Definitely. So I think we got that. If we have to make a verdict, I might have to switch my answer.
Okay, winner.
Because that is a very good point.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Got me there, man.
All right.
But let's move on. So now we get into a question that is very, very hard for me to answer, and it is: if you're on a desert island, you're stranded, you get to bring one fandom. Essentially, you have one fandom, or let's say this: you live in an alternate universe where just one of these, for whatever reason, doesn't exist. You have to choose.
You must choose.
Marvel or Star Wars.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna let you start with this one.
Okay. So I know we were talking Star Wars this whole time.
Yeah, man.
Too. Man. I'm gonna say this might be a hot topic. I don't know if it is, but I guess it just knows my alignments, and then maybe others. I'm gonna say Star Wars.
Okay.
And I don't have to think about it too quickly, just because I know my heart is Star Wars. Just because Star Wars is my favorite. Like everything I live, I breathe, I drink Star Wars, right? So, like, I love other fandoms, don't get me wrong, but I know everything there is to know about Star Wars. I collect the toys, I've reenacted lightsaber battles, I'm sure a lot of people do, but I know a lot about Star Wars. I know a lot about other fandoms too, and I have my own opinions about it, but those are opinions. These are almost facts of Star Wars. It's like I know it so well in and out that I can like draw upon different things.
Right.
And another reason, so that was my first love. Star Wars was my first love, and it was passed to me by my father. Like my father, a big Star Wars fan, he gave it to me.
Father's lightsaber.
And when I think that's the core of it, is family. And so the thing I value most in life is family, is connections with people. So because of that, I think that Star Wars holds a special, near, dear place in my heart. But if I'm talking also just in terms of another connection to me, other than just what Star Wars is about, for me personally, because I'm sure a lot of people have connections with Star Wars through their parents, because it is such a long 42-year type of journey, right? Like, obviously it's going to expand at least 3 generations at this point. But if I'm talking about personally too, being an Indian, being a Hindu, there's so many Hindu elements in Star Wars. Oh, by the way, that might be a good video topic I'll do later. But so many Hindu.
Actually, you might need to. I want you to elaborate on that. Exactly.
So I'll just give you like one example, or two. I'll give you 2. So like names, a lot of names in Star Wars are Hindu names, adapted for Star Wars. So Padme, for example, is based off the word Padma, which is lotus.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, and then and usually lotuses are referred to with beauty, with grace, elegance in Hinduism, and so obviously Padme Amidala embodies that. Then Yoda, which is Yoda in Sanskrit, is the word for war. So
ironic.
Yeah,
okay.
Ironic because it's like he doesn't want war, but it's like he's having to spearhead a war against the dark side, right? If you're talking about that. Another one is like the Jedi death, which is the ritual for that is cremation. Yeah. And in Hinduism, all deaths are cremated. And so it's very spiritual to cremate, because it's like you're going back into nothing, like into dirt, right? So that's why another reason I think that it's super cool, because it's such a deep connection behind it.
No, I really didn't know any of that.
So it's like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot. I'll do like a whole video. It might be like 5 minutes long, but
I'm so curious about that.
But yeah, so I would pick Star Wars. I'm not to say that I don't love Marvel. I've seen every Marvel movie there is,
of course.
I used to have Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man denim shorts back in the day, so it's not like I was rocking those for a while. So it's definitely Marvel definitely holds a special place. So, but yeah, if I'm picking one, I'm picking Star Wars. What about you?
So I also live and breathe Star Wars. I mean, if I look around my room right now, there is a ton of Star Wars stuff all around here. I've spent $500 freaking at Dragon Con on a lightsaber, and I don't regret that one bit.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to be the opposite, and I'm going to say Marvel, and it's for a completely different set of reasons as yours.
Right.
I do really enjoy your reasons, right? Like, I mean, family, religion, all that good stuff, and being the first family that you really got into, makes complete sense. For me, Marvel kind of was the first fandom I got into. Spider-Man was one of the first things that I ever saw as a kid.
Right.
I got into X-Men, even though I really didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, and I think every kid kind of was like, "Oh, X-Men, cool." I don't really understand it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I don't know what's going on, but that guy can shoot lasers from his eyes.
Quite.
I'm with it.
And then as I got older, I got more into it. I got more into the comics, and then we had this wonderful wave of Marvel movies that just completely changed the world of cinema, really. Right. But I think this reason or why I like Marvel and why I would choose Marvel is kind of twofold.
Okay.
One, Marvel's a little more relatable to me. So like I can look at some of these characters and relate to them. You can look at Peter Parker and you'd be like, that he was the nerdy kid who got bullied a lot, but he got these powers and now he uses them for good. And like, wow, I can kind of relate to that. You can relate to because I'm an Islander with some African descent as well. I can kind of relate to Black Panther just in the culture of Black Panther. And like
there's so much backstory with the characters, right?
Really,
there's so much backstory.
Exactly.
I think that helps.
And because it's also set in the real world, it's set on Earth or in the real galaxy. I know it gets kind of fucky with Thor and the Guardians. Like that.
It's still same realm. Yeah,
but it uses the real world instead of and real physics instead of made up physics that they did for Star Wars. So like I definitely see. Like, I guess I get a more into that. I love Iron Man because I'm a mechanical engineer and I would love to build my own Iron Man suit. Like, what? That's awesome. And then the other reason is Marvel, and Star Wars does do this to an extent, and we can talk about that, but Marvel did a lot of political stuff, which is a thing that a lot of people can argue about, but from the beginning, Marvel has always been a reflection of society. Yeah. So with X-Men, we had one, the Holocaust, and then two, just diversity. The idea of mutants
versus humans
being different, but at the end of the day, they are still human. Right. And you have the two different sides. You have Magneto, who's like, well, if we are more evolved, we should be the spearheads of this society.
Almost like an MLK versus Malcolm X type of scenario.
Exactly.
You're like, let's just take our power back, and it's like, or let's find a way to coexist.
Right. There are a lot of allegories that you can apply to real life. Freaking Thanos wants to.
That's a big
half of civilization, but if he does, the rest of the universe can prosper endlessly.
I don't know with the current pandemic going on. I think he might have had a right idea. That
man Thanos, he might have had a point.
I am inevitable.
But yeah, like it's kind of crazy. And then one more thing is that Star Wars has such an expansive universe, but Marvel.
Yeah, there's more. Like, there's more content. There's definitely a lot more content.
You can dive into Marvel comics for the rest of your life, and you will never finish.
Yeah, that's like, crazy to me. It's like I don't think there's one person who's read every single comic. Maybe there is, but
exactly. You had to have been there when it started.
Yeah,
and then you have to have been reading from now.
Right,
like,
continuing.
Way too much.
You can't just finish.
And that is a turnoff to some people. Like I know I can't go into a comic book shop right now and look at, let's say, whatever they're doing with Spider-Man and say, hey, I want to buy all the Spider-Man comics and not spend more than like $200.
Yeah,
like, it's gonna be crazy. But at the same time, like, if that was the only fandom that I could choose between the two, I would never run out of content. I would never be bored. I would never be looking for, oh man, when are they gonna give me more Marvel? I want more Marvel. We actually have had that with Star Wars. You know, there was that several years between the prequel trilogy and the sequels where we really
10.
didn't have that Star Wars content.
I think 10.
We had
Master Cypher Diaz was killed almost 10 years ago.
I think it was 2005 to 2015, and they only had Clone Wars in between. So which which was a lot.
That's true. We did get Clone Wars. We did get some books, and we did get some games,
right?
And that did kind of satisfy some people for a while. But it's still. But I mean, throughout all of that, Marvel never stopped. There was never a hiatus. We did get movies, which kind of amplified it and gave people who weren't in the fandom originally kind of got into the fandom. But like, comics never stopped rolling out. Games never really stopped rolling out. We got like Marvel Ultimate Alliance. We got all of the Spider-Man games, all the Iron Man games, all the Hulk games. Well, really just like one.
You're right. Yeah, it just never stops.
Marvel doesn't stop. That Marvel machine doesn't stop.
I even feel like because Marvel has so many sub genres, I guess, within Marvel. Like you said, like even movies, like you could get tired of what is the MCU type movies, but then it's like they'll have like X-Men, which is still Marvel technically.
You have X-Men, you have Deadpool.
Deadpool, so it's still Marvel.
And it's only going to get bigger because now with
the merger.
We got with the merger, and now all of these different heroes that like are kind of out there are starting to get thrown in. Like I know Spawn's DC, but like we've got the new Doctor Strange.
And the madness of the multiverse or something like that. So
yeah. And apparently there's been rumor that Keanu Reeves is actually going to play Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Which I find so damn cool.
I don't know. Keanu's supposed to be something. They're trying to get him in a role. Someone thought he was going to be Moon Knight. Some thought he was like, they're not sure where he is, but he's going to be in it somehow. So
you got Black Widow fighting Taskmaster. Like no one who's
that's never. I don't think that's happened.
Knows who Taskmaster is.
Yeah. But that's I get what you're saying. Just like I said, there's no wrong answer in this one because it's personal preference.
It's a personal choice.
But yeah, Marvel definitely has more content. But I think that Star Wars having like one lineology, like Star Wars is more mythology, and Marvel is more content. So it's like if you're into content, then Marvel's like you're never gonna run out. But it's like it's the same characters in a sense. Like I mean, there's so many, but everyone focuses on the main ones most of the time, and it's like.
Oh, sorry, go.
And then it like keeps repeating almost. It's like it's the same. Like they'll change it, but it's like they restart the universe or something. It's like okay, that chapter's closed. Let's just start over. But it's like again, because it happens here meaning Earth and based on Earth and our galaxy and universe. That it happening here, there's only so much you can do. Whereas in Star Wars, it's like okay, we'll just go back in time or we'll go forward in time, but. You know, there's no real basis for what happens because it's Star Wars.
I find it really interesting how people will always do debates on like Marvel of like who would beat who. So say you have like Hulk versus Thor and things like that, and there are some people who are like, oh no, Thor would definitely kill Hulk or Hulk would definitely kill Thor, but you really don't know because there are literally arcs in Marvel where both could happen.
Yeah, it's like oh who would beat who? It's like I think they're like 2-2, like I don't know, like there's like they fought each other multiple times. Someone comes out a winner, or it's like in one of them, I'm pretty sure like no one wins or something. There's the whole Earth explodes.
The power levels are just as fluid as they are in like Dragon Ball Z, where they just don't mean shit.
Right. Like after Gohan goes into his like ultimate mode, it's just a crapshoot because no one knows anything anymore.
Power level is anymore.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Anyone can beat anyone, really. It just depends on what satisfies them.
Yeah, Goku can beat... I think that in Dragon Ball Z, the ultimate thing is Goku can beat anyone if he's given enough time to just keep going.
Right? Exactly.
Like, he'll find it. Just give him a little bit.
Like,
yeah.
There's literally a whole arc where Hulk literally beats everyone in the Marvel Universe because he just can't stop being angry.
Right.
And he's, like, to the point where he almost becomes a nuclear explosion, and Adam has to fight him.
Right.
I think it was Adam. Has to fight him, and then he, like, finally releases all that nuclear energy, and he managed to come back to normal. But, like...
Yeah.
I mean...
There's just so
Man
much.
Could, in theory, even beat, like, Thor
if
given the proper tools.
I mean, we just saw him kind of beat Thanos, right?
I think at one point he makes a suit, like, out of Asgardian metal, and it gives him, like...
Given, like, it's like you have to...
Shit, now Iron Man has god powers.
Right. It's like, given what their strengths are, you gotta give them that. Because, like, Iron Man needs time to build his suit. And then Thor is, like, automatically, like, he's a god, so he's probably gonna win, like, most of the time, but the others can outsmart them if they have, like, a long game plan, something like that, you know?
Exactly.
So stuff like that. But, yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Marvel is so much more expansive, but I like the lineology of Star Wars, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
But, yeah, so that's just me. Obviously, I made my point to why I like Star Wars, but I would prefer to have both, so... This is a difficult topic anyway.
I think we both would.
Yeah.
I don't
know if anyone's just like, get rid of one. No. Yeah. So...
I don't think we want to live in a world without them.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic.
And now this topic is one of my favorites.
All right.
This is something that I've wanted...
For all the gamers out there.
Since 2011, when my favorite game came out, Skyrim, which, yes, Skyrim is my favorite game of all time. I always wanted like a really good Star Wars game that I could like go back and play over and over and over. And I was a little late coming into the game, so I didn't really get to play games like KOTOR and KOTOR 2, which are probably still the pinnacle of Star Wars games, but they're a little dated at this point, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this. I can't play them. They're just a little dated for me. It's the graphics, it's the gameplay. I get what you mean. It's just like people are gonna be like, oh no, but you can. I mean, it's still good. It's like, don't get me wrong. The reason why it still even has relevance to this date is because it was good. Otherwise, people would just forgotten about it. Like, I'm pretty sure there was like a bounty hunter game that they threw out, like Jango Fett or something. No one cares 13, I think. Yeah, no one cares because it was like doesn't hold up that well. It's like any other game. But this is like so cool that people care about it. So it's like, don't think we're like crapping on it, poo. Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to do that. But I do want to. But like, I feel like we have come to a point in the gaming industry where this a fantastic Star Wars game should be feasible, and we've gotten close. You know, we've gotten Fallen Order, we've gotten Battlefront. If you're into that kind of stuff, and you know, after all the paywalls got down, you know, it's actually a fun thing to play with people. Yeah. But like, so this question is the best Star Wars video game. What would
turn up the volume, dear. We're missing the picture.
Game developer do to make this a Star Wars game to end all Star Wars?
Okay, so just to say, we've broken it down into categories, so it kind of makes it easier for us to define it. The categories are setting, so that means time, place, time, history type of scenario, and how expansive it's going to be, like can you go off-world and stuff like that. Then it's character, who's your main character, or does it not matter, like Knights of the Old Republic and stuff like that? Is it customizable or not? Gameplay, which is, you know, cinematic, like Jedi Fallen Order first person shooter, or like Skyrim, a little third person type of scenario, God of War type of where it's a mixture of both. And then last is storyline. So is there like a coherent storyline? Like with most games, like I think of like the Spider-Man game, the PS4 one, or Batman Arkham, the series. It's like there's a coherent storyline, but there's side missions that play into it too if you want. You could just disregard them and finish the whole storyline, or you could do them and get like a more expansive storyline. So depends on what you want to do, kind of thing. So that's our categories. But why don't you go first, since you're the more avid gamer?
All right. Yeah. So for starters, one of my favorite games are... All right, well, let's go in order. So setting, first of all. So setting, in terms of time period, I think we have a fantastic opportunity, especially at this point, you know, 2020, we have the idea that the High Republic.
Right.
We have no idea,
no clue,
what that setting is. Not a damn clue.
Sounds cool.
So I think there's a lot of, and it's great. So I think that's a really great time period to put a game where you can really have a moldable story to the point where it could be canon if you wanted it to be canon, or it could be like Force Unleashed, where it's just a really fun game to play and it's not canon. I think that would be a perfect setting for it. In terms of like places, I really want to see as much of the galaxy as possible. And this will kind of tie into the gameplay aspect of it. Whereas, like, I want a straight up, in terms of exploration, I want a straight up like No Man's Sky type of exploration. Which also, No Man's Sky, a game, but one thing they did perfectly was that space exploration. I
for sure.
love it. And that is exactly what I want.
I think that'd be really cool. Just going to these different planets and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to be able to climb into a ship. I want to be able to fly around a planet, and then I want to be able to leave the planet and fly to other planets, or jump into hyperspace and fly to other galaxies. That would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, right.
Like if you go to the unknown regions or something.
Exactly. Like I want to go to the
like
unknown
that could be like a
regions.
side mission. Like trying to, you're a map. You could map it out.
Right. You could find like different holo maps and get and maybe you find Exegol, but Exegol is like a horrible storm planet, and like
so you're just like
flying there.
So you're just like, okay, there's a horrible storm planet. We're just leaving.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna touch that. That seems like it'll destroy my ship. So like I think that would be fantastic. In terms of character, I'm a huge fan of RPGs. I have role-playing games. I've always loved them. Like I said, Skyrim is my favorite game. So I think for the perfect Star Wars game, that is exactly what we need. So the character would probably be a non-voiced, just amorphous character. You get to create your character. You get to create what species they are with with limitations. You get to create kind of curate a backstory. And you get to play what character you want to play specifically. I think that is a very big aspect because, like I said, there are so many different types of people and careers in Star Wars. I think it's important to be able to explore those.
Bounty hunter, Jedi.
Exactly, bounty hunter, Jedi,
Senator,
Sith. I want to be able to. I want to be able to be force sensitive, and maybe I join the Mandalorians, or I want to be. I want to be a Jedi that maybe I can fall like in my storyline and go to the Sith. I want to be able to I think all of that would be really, really cool. And to that same point, going into gameplay, I really like how in Skyrim you kind of have this blanket
or quilt? Blanket.
Of things that you are able to do. So you can really pick up a sword and start swinging the sword if you want to. You can pick up a bow and start shooting the bow. You have some baseline magic ability, but the way that you truly become what you want to become is you use those skills and level those skills. So something kind of like that, where you can become specialized in something. I really would like to see in a Star Wars game. Now, I would like to see it a little differently done than Skyrim, in the sense of Skyrim really had a very blanket, like I said, very blanket way of doing it, and until 2016 or whatever, where everyone could really start modding Skyrim, and you could add and one of my favorite mods for Skyrim is Ordinator Perk Overhaul, which, if you don't know what that is, it basically changes the perk trees in Skyrim so that they are much more specialized. So if you wanted to invest in this certain build, like you had this concept of a build in your mind, it really allowed you to just dive into that specific build.
Oh, nice.
Instead of just enhancing. Oh, you're investing in destruction magic. Your destruction spells are a little easier to cast. They're a little stronger. They might have this really cool augment ability. So I really do enjoy that, and that's something I really would want. In terms of camera, I think it's important to be able to see your character, but also be able to be your character.
Right.
So I really like the way that Skyrim and Fallout does it, where you can switch between first and third person.
Yeah.
And moreover, I really like the way that Fallout did it, because Fallout has really good gunplay as well as, you know, really good melee capability,
right.
and immersion in the first person.
So like,
and
yeah,
third
if you're like deciding to be like a shooter in the Star Wars
Exactly.
realm, you can. Or if you're deciding to be like a wielder of a lightsaber or a sword, I don't know. Yeah.
Precisely.
So yeah,
I like being able to do either one of those.
So would your last point, would your storyline be streamlined or kind of open, or is there like a coherent storyline?
100% open. So
right.
I definitely think, and this is where it kind of gets hard, right? Because you could, in theory, it could end up suffering from the Elder Scrolls series in the sense that the main storyline would probably railroad you into being a good guy or someone who is, or
right.
this fabled hero who ends up doing something in the galaxy,
yeah.
right? And that's fine, because some people will just completely bypass the main storyline and just do whatever side quest lines make it so that they feel like their character. That's perfectly acceptable. And I think that could work for this type of game. But I would rather it be... what I would rather do, it would implement a system where your backstory could kind of determine what story you're given. And what I mean by that is you could choose. So I know with the new Cyberpunk game, they kind of have the ability to where you choose where your character actually comes from and what ramifications that has in the storyline. And I think it would be really cool to kind of implement something like that, to the point where, you know, there might be this overall universe where but because of your backstory choices and then your future choices in game, that storyline could possibly be modified so that the main story would still allow you to feel unique and not carbon cut this cookie cutter
stupid watered down cookie cutter routine
protagonist, and then the side missions could help with that. Don't know if that's really feasible, and if that's not feasible, I'm more than okay with just doing it kind of like Skyrim, where there is a main storyline, but then there is a plethora of side quests
right.
that you can do.
I feel like the open concept is really cool. I think it would work. It just would take forever for them to make, which is fine.
Of course.
Yeah, which is fine. But like, yeah, I think
take all the time you need. If I'm 30 and I get this game, I'm still gonna play the game.
Right. It'd be good. This open concept is becoming very, very popular, even with like movies and like Netflix kind of did it with Black Mirror Bandersnatch. You know?
Oh yeah, where you guys
like you choose and you create, and there's like different endings and outcomes. Like if that's sort of like the open concept. If that's the way they can do it, I wouldn't mind that happening either. I think your game is super open and super fun, and like you said, it would be very nice to have a game that you can continually play, not just in like a year, but like for 5-10 years down the line. You know,
right.
Like not you buy it and then you're like, okay, I'm done with the game. Now it just sits on a shelf. Like I don't really play it again, or maybe I play it just for nostalgia's sake. But yeah. I think that's really cool. I'm going to go opposite and have a constricted storyline and all that stuff.
Opposite.
So let me set it. I think I'm going to go with the beginning of the Empire. All the way through the Empire. So this is the Galactic Empire type of period. Galactic Civil War. Pre and after, before, during and after, so that time, original trilogy time. With the character, I don't know how people are gonna react, but I would really love this. A Darth Vader, just Darth Vader, Okay. And I know we've had some, like in Force Unleashed, we had a little bit like the first level, I think. The first scene was him going through Kashyyyk.
What a great mission. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Like, I think everyone
was
who's played that game remembers him just picking and chucking up, like, Wookiees. And you feel so powerful, right? But...
getting mad at your stormtroopers and just killing some
right, you're just like, you get in my way, get out. Or, like, shooting you accidentally or something, like... And so... I think that would be really fun just because Vader... We could really expand on Vader's power. Like, just get it like the Rogue One scene where you're just actually annihilating your competition and your enemies. But there are challenges, right? Like, if Vader got to face, like, 100 people, like, that's a little more difficult than just 12 stuck in, like, a tunnel, right? So, I think there's definitely times where you could make it challenging. Not just, like, Vader's, like, ultimate powerful, like, uber powerful, just annihilate everyone. Because he is, but there's definitely challenges. Like, he's got to win still. He's got to find a way.
Of course.
So then, in terms of gameplay, I think a God of War type of gameplay where it's semi-cinematic, semi-slasher type, hack and slash type.
You're talking about the, which one are you talking about?
The newest one, right? Ones. The newest one is more...
The PS4 one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
like,
yeah, I can see it.
It's cinematic. Like, there can be... like, if you're facing a boss, it can be cinematic or stuff like that. And then even with, like, other people, like, if you just pick a fight or something, it can be cinematic, and you can just, press X and then, X0, X circle or XY, depending on what console.
Yeah.
And just press the buttons to continue the cinematic sequence. Or it can be just a slash, like, if you're getting through... Like, let's say there's, like, not a boss, but, like, a brute, like, comes in.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or, like, there's someone on a jetpack and you have to struggle, like, capturing them, like, with the Force, like, make sure they don't go away, stuff like that. Or, like, a Force choke moment, different things. So, a mixture of hack and slash and cinematic would be my ideal.
I kind of like that a lot, actually.
Because the Vader is so cinematic, but you kind of just, at moments, you just want to wreak havoc, too. You don't really care if... oh, I want to defeat this 1-2 guys. I want to defeat all of them, right? And in terms of storyline, I thought you could really expand on everything Vader, different moments in Vader's lifetime. So I was thinking for to start, it would be him hunting down the remaining Jedi, right? And then that would be like one level or something. Or like him establishing the Empire would be like the first third of the game. Or the first half, I guess I should say. And then him establishing different things like the Inquisitorius, like the Inquisitors. Him like manipulating like young Force-sensitive children to come on his side rather than just be like Jedi. Different things like that. Like him building Vader Castle would be the fortress on Mustafar would be amazing because he enlists like a Sith ghost, like he brings back a Sith ghost just to help him, but then that Sith ghost turns on him, and then that's like a big battle, but he ultimately defeats him, and Vader's like, you're too weak and stuff like that, right?
He had like that dream sequence of where he fights the Jedi all over again and sees Padme and
right, like something like that could be happening, like
be
like a nightmare sequence. And then like and then you could see like different things like, and maybe him going on Hoth, like in the initial part, like him like getting rid of some rebels, like you have to go find like Luke or someone like that, go find Leia, go find the rebels, and then it's just like you're hacking down the rebels and stuff like that. And then it could be something like and then I was thinking to end the game, it would be like you could cut almost and put the cinematic sequence of him turning to the light side. Of like he says no, and then like picks up Palpatine and throws him in. You just play like the movie sequence almost.
That'd be pretty. Yeah, like that'd be dope.
Yeah, like just put in the movie clip, like your Star Wars. You don't have to worry about copyright. You're making the game, right? So they put in the movie sequence, and then I thought the last level, like an epilogue type of scenario, or the last level, and then you could have an epilogue afterwards. But let me tell you, the last level is him, and remember, he dies, but he comes in as a Force ghost, like a few moments later, right? Like maybe 20, 40 minutes later. Like he gets a Jedi death with the cremation, but he comes in later. I thought that would be really cool of him, if he could go, if you're like walking through like the Force realm in a sense. Like it's like kind of like Mortis, and you see like Obi-Wan there, you see Qui-Gon, you see Yoda, you see everyone there. And then I thought it would be really cool if honestly you could make it like, and this could be all canon. Like Disney could sell this as canon. The Vader, I don't know, Vader, the complete Chronicles of Vader or something. You know, something like that. I don't know, the name to be worked on.
Gotta work on that, man.
But something like that. Like, these could be the filler stories of what happens in Vader's life. And then it could be him, like, there's like, teaching him how to be a Force ghost. You know, and you just have to go through these different things. And then you ultimately come in, because you're a Force ghost, it's almost like you can come in at any point in time as well. Like, it doesn't matter that it took you. Right? Like I think Mortis was like that. Like, when they go on Mortis, it was like 2 or 3 episodes, right? In the Clone Wars. Like, they're there for a few days. But when they come back, it's like they blipped off the radar and then blipped back. Like, they were barely gone for a second. Not even a second. Maybe like a milliseconds.
Right.
And so like something like that where it's like Force time is a little different. And then I thought you could as an epilogue, I thought it would be really cool to train Luke to build the Jedi Order. That you come in and he asks you for advice and stuff like that. And then you could honestly come in and you speak with Rey almost from your angle, and they use you see the Force ghosts. And you're speaking to Rey and Rise of Skywalker and stuff like that. You're like lift, like rise, and she rises. It's like they're using their powers, something like that. Yeah, and those would be the epilogue stuff. The other one the actual gameplay stuff would be more of course, Vader stuff. And I honestly thought you could make a way that, because Anakin seems so at peace, right? At least with that little snippet of Force Ghost we see. I thought it would be really cool if he actually finds a way to bring a Padme into the Force, like not as a Force ghost, but with him. Yeah. Right. Like because all living Force, all living things are connected with the Force. So if he could find her, apologize to her, something like that, like make it okay in the end, in a sense. And I thought that would be really cool. That would be nice. Yeah. Like that would be the ending, of the game. It's like you go and you see Luke like standing in Endor, and then you come back, and you're like, and then they're like, "What's wrong?" Like and then you could be like, "I need to find Padme," and then he like that could be like the last mission. It's like to find. That'd Padme. Be really cool, actually. Yeah.
What's going on?
Still there? Yeah. Okay. Cool. But yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a phone call. I don't know what that was.
Oh, you're good. But yeah. So yeah, I think that would be really dope. What do you think? I think. The whole Vader...
Yeah, I actually really found it. I think that's so cool.
And it's not a game, like you said, that you can play multiple times. Like, you can play multiple times, but you can't... You're not going to find anything new. Like, it's a movie.
Right.
But I think that's sort of what Star Wars is. Star Wars. It's like... If it were canon, like, you could just make it like a movie. Like, it'd be very cinematic. Yeah.
I do like that though, and I think like the God of War engine would actually be perfect for that.
The God of War engine would be super good.
If you wanted some exploration too, I mean, God of War, you know, they have the little boat that you can float around in to walk around the world, and they have the Bifrost that actually allows them to go to different worlds. Right. And I think you could easily implement something like that in Darth Vader. I mean, you have the Executor, his Star Destroyer. Right. You can easily just be like, oh, well, I can hop in the Star Destroyer and I can go to Mustafar. Or I can go to,
like something like that.
Wherever he went, like that would be. Right. That would be. I think that actually would be really cool, and I can easily see that as a game. I'd be all for that.
Yeah, I think that'd be Disney, I think Disney should definitely make that. But yeah, but no, I think both of our games are sort of. They're both what we personally would want, but it's like both games would be technically a version of the ideal Star Wars game. It's like one is like yours. It's like open. It's like it's role playing, and it's you get to choose. And guess what? You can play it. You can be a bounty hunter in one. You can be a Jedi in one. You can be a Sith in another. You could be a freaking senator for another. For all I care, right?
I am the Senate.
Right.
Like, it's like you get to choose. You could like secretly you could play a Palpatine like a long game. Like in the end, you like turn up on everyone. And they're like, hey, guess what? I was a Sith all the whole time. You know, something like that. Like, you have to sneak around. Yeah. So, like, your game is definitely playable multiple times and is so open and so much choice. And whereas mine is like, it's not choice as much as it is you are Vader. And I think that would be really cool. It's just that there's a storyline to follow here.
Yeah.
Because there's so much with Vader, right? Like, and they don't really tell what happens. Like, he's at peace, but he wouldn't be at peace without doing anything with Padme, or at least finding something with Padme.
I really do like that nightmare sequence, and I could see that happen. You go to the castle on Mustafar, and you know, after you beat the Force Ghost, the Sith Ghost, right? You access that little altar thing,
right?
And then it, like, flashes, and instead of you playing
Darth Vader, you're Anakin.
You're now that like shadowy figure of Anakin with like those two light pieces. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that would be dope.
Yeah, you're now Anakin again, and you're like, wait, and you see like his arm is back, and his legs are back. Even though this arm might be, I think it's this arm. Yeah,
you start walking through the corridor, and you see Shmi pregnant, and then you see Palpatine in the background controlling the midichlorians.
Yeah, and it's like it's not true, but you think that's what Anakin made.
That's what he's seeing. Yeah, like, oh man, that'd be cool. I'd so down to play that.
Yeah, and it's like you have to defeat, and then it's like objective, defeat the Jedi, and then there's just like 3-4 Jedi coming at you at once.
I love it. I want this.
Yeah.
Santa Monica Studios, Disney, Lucasfilms, whoever we need to get in contact with.
Whoever we get in touch with this, we need to make this happen. But yeah.
This game.
These games, guys. These games. We need this to happen.
I'll buy a collector's edition of it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, but for sure. I think those are all our topics for today.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, guys, this is it for the Beskar Briefing episode 2. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.